Afwan, I think we've just gone live now. Are we on now? Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد خاتم الأنبياء وإمام المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا نويت تعلم وتعليم وتذكر وتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على تمسك بكتاب الله وبسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والدعاء إلى الهدى ودلالة على الخير وابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى وبعد رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي وبعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Inshallah, we'll be going through the rules and regulations pertaining to the fasting. Inshallah, in a couple of days, we will be in the blessed month of Ramadan. Early sight indications, the maps which show the visibility of the moon, suggest that the first fast of Ramadan will be on Wednesday and the first Taraweeh will be on Tuesday night. So Allahu Alam, it can change because Allah is the best of planners. So it might be Tuesday, but it cannot be the first Taraweeh tonight. So let's get that out of the way with first and foremost. So firstly, we will talk about what is the fasting itself. So fasting itself is to abstain during the day, right? Key point here is during the day you must abstain from eating, drinking, and marital relations, whether intentionally or by mistake. And this must be through any body cavity which breaks the fast. Now, body cavities which break the fast, we're referring to the mouth, the stomach, the nose, the brain, or any of the orifices, like the rear orifice. And it must be coupled with an intention. There must be an intention. So just going hungry the entire day, just going thirsty the entire day, not engaging in marital relations without an intention, that is not Ramadan. There must be a firm intention in the heart. It doesn't have to be spoken. So if after Maghrib you say to yourself, you've got it in your heart that I'm going to fast tomorrow, but then you don't physically say it, that is still a firm intention. So it doesn't have to be spoken. And the point of your intention where it is made, it will be from the point of sunset, so Maghrib, all the way up until just before the sun is at its highest point, i.e. midday. So just before that, the zawal time. So it's very rare that a person will not have an intention to not fast the month of Ramadan. Okay? Yes? Can you make the intention to fast for a whole month once? No, because the fast, it renews every day. So each day in Ramadan is a new obligation for you to fast. Okay? Now, the obligation is only upon someone who is a sane person. So somebody who is like hasn't got their true sanity. Fard of fasting is not upon them. These are the conditions. So you have to be a sane person. You have to be a Muslim. So your next door neighbor Joe, you can't knock on his door and say to him, it's Ramadan, you must keep 30 days fast. If not, you have to pay the kafara. Right? You can't do that. It has to be a Muslim. Number 3, the person has to be someone who has reached the age of puberty. How do we establish someone who has reached puberty? Some of you at the back might not have reached it yet, so Allahu Alam, might not. So puberty is established for a woman. The earliest age you can reach puberty is 9. For a male, the earliest age he can reach puberty is 12. And the latest for both is 15 years of age. Now we're talking about lunar years, 15 years of age. In solar years, it might be approximately 14 years of age. Okay. So these are the maximum and the minimum. How else can you establish if somebody has become baligh, has become mature? Yes. A woman started menstruating. A wet dream for a boy or a girl, right? So ejaculation, this will establish that the person is now mature. Okay. The cause for one's month of Ramadan, for it to be an obligation, is the month of Ramadan coming. So once the month of Ramadan comes, now this is a cause for you to start fasting. Now, and this is a general cause which renews each year. So if you are present in it, then you must fast. Okay? So it's not something which you say that I'm going to fast every single day for the rest of my life, or every single Ramadan for the rest of my life. Every year that the Ramadan comes, it's a new obligation which renews. Okay? You had a question?
No, sorry.
Okay. Each day is a new obligation to fast that day and is a new worship. So you need a new intention. Why? Because if we take the example, if you ruin one day of fast, it doesn't ruin all the remainder of your Ramadan. Okay? So that's something that you need to bear in mind. If somebody becomes Muslim or baligh, mature, reaches the point of puberty on that very specific day in Ramadan, then they must fast the remainder of that day and the rest of the month. Anything before that point is not an obligation upon them, so they don't have to do qada of it. You must make up your qada fast. You must fast the days that you are in Ramadan, and you must fast any Ramadan fast that you have missed. These are called the qada. So you must fast ada and qada. You must have knowledge of the fasting. You must know that fasting has been prescribed. So somebody who is on a desert island, the obligation has never reached them, you can't expect them to fast now. And we spoke about this many times in Aqidah. Okay? If somebody is in a Muslim land, they have no excuse to not know about the obligation of fasting, because it's going to be widespread and it's going to be around them. In a non-Muslim land, it is required for two upright people to inform them of the obligation of fasting, according to the view of the Imam. Now the Sahibain, the students, they said, being an upright Muslim is not a condition, right? And that, in our case, it might be more befitting, because Allahu Alam, it's very hard to find upright people in this day and age. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala include us amongst those who are upright. There's no obligation to fast if you have ill health. If you are sick, somebody who has an issue and they cannot fast, then there is no obligation upon them to fast. A woman who is pregnant, she is under no obligation to fast. A woman who is milking her child, breastfeeding, she is not required to fast. These are the categories that you are not obligated to fast upon. And a side point here that we need to highlight is many people in these examples, they start to become wary of it. And they say, no, we can fast, we must fast. It's not good that we don't fast. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us a ruqsa. He's given us a way out as a mercy, as a rahmah from him. It's a gift. So you take the gift and you accept it. You shouldn't feel bad. It may be the case that a woman who is expecting, she says that, no, I'm able to fast. They'll be able to fast. But what long-term implications will that have on your child? So these are things that we need to bear in mind. However, the traveler, there's no obligation upon the traveler to fast. There's no obligation upon the traveler to fast, but if they do fast, the traveler, it will be better for them too. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Baqarah, verse 184, he says, فَمَنْ تَطَوَّعَ خَيْرًا فَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَهُ وَأَنْ تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. So whoever increases the good of his own accord, it is better for him. And fasting is better for you if only you realize. So if you are able to fast whilst you are traveling, then it is better for you to fast. Now, a point on the traveler. This does not mean that you have in your mind, I'm going to travel today, I'm not going to fast. You have to have left the city boundaries before the time of Fajr comes in. Before the time of Fajr comes in, you have to have left the city boundaries. If the time of Fajr comes and you're still in your city, now you must keep a fast. And if you do not keep a fast, you will be sinful, because now you're a resident, you're not a traveler. Once you leave the city boundaries, that is only then when you become a traveler. However, if you are fasting and you leave the city boundaries and you think I'm a traveler now, that it's okay for me to break it, it's not okay for you to break it. It becomes haram for you to break it, and you should not break it. So I'll give you an example. Husnain, he needs to go to London for his job. Okay. Fajr time has come in and he's still in Nottingham. He decides that he's fasting. But now he leaves the city boundaries. He gets to about Leicester and he feels a little thirsty, stops at services, grabs a quick Lucozade. It's haram for him to break it now. However, if he left before Fajr time comes in, if he was already out of the city on the M1 driving to London, now there's no obligation upon him to fast. But if he did fast, it would be better for him. Is that clear? Yes. If you're traveling two different time zones, then you need to break your fast according to wherever you are. Okay, so for example, if you're on an aeroplane and you're fasting, you need to look out the window and establish, is it sunset? And it's quite easy on an aeroplane. There's no light pollution. You don't have to worry about big buildings obstructing your view. The horizon's directly there in front of you.
I mean, for example, if it's extended by, say, 6, 7, 8 hours.
It doesn't matter if it's extended.
Why is it traveling?
Yeah. And that's where the rukhsah is there for. That if you are unable to do it, then don't do it. Okay? But it's better for you if you do. And even for people who are sick, for some people, there is treatment in fasting. That if they fast, there is treatment for them. So it's all based upon what your diagnosis is, what your illness is. Okay. So yes.
I remember you made the point of saying if you were ill and then you become better of health.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Yeah, we'll get to that. Yeah, we're going to go in more detail. So the conditions: A, there must be intention. B, you must be free from anything which is contrary to fasting. So, i.e., a woman who has menstrual bleeding or postnatal bleeding, then obviously she cannot fast. You must be free from all things which break the fast. So, for example, the time of Fajr comes in and you're still eating and drinking. Now, that's not a fast. Okay? And this is very important because many people, they take this sahur time very, very lightly. The time of Fajr comes in and they try and extend it all the way up until the time. What good is 10 minutes going to do for you? 10 minutes is not going to kill you. Just stop eating and drinking 10 minutes before Fajr time comes in. This is what's known as imsak, the time that you should stop eating and drinking. And this is the more cautious way, because many people, I guarantee you, they try to extend it all the way and then they end up going over. So try to stop eating and drinking 10 minutes before. And same with marital relations. However, with marital relations, if you are in a state of janaba, you're in a state of major impurity, and the time of Fajr comes in, that doesn't prevent you from fasting. Okay? As long as you have finished your marital relations before Fajr time has come in. Now, if you are in a state of janaba, that does not affect your fast. Okay? And the outcome is that once you keep the fast, the obligation which is upon you is lifted and one is rewarded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. And know one thing, the person who is traveling, they're not free from that fast. They have to make it up at a different time. Okay, so that's an important point. But know one thing, if you miss one fast in the month of Ramadan, you can fast your entire life. You will not receive the same reward for that one fast you missed in the month of Ramadan. That is how blessed this month is. Okay. Yes.
So instead of saying that the obligation is lifted, it's more accurate to say that the obligation is postponed to like a later time.
Why we say the obligation is lifted is because at that moment the obligation is not upon the person, right? So yeah, you can say the obligation is delayed, right? So once that day passes or they stop becoming a traveler, now the requirement to make it up comes into effect. Okay. Now the types of fast, there are different types of fast that we have. You have the obligatory fast. So these are the qada fasts, those fasts which you should have done and you didn't do. and then the actual month's fast of Ramadan. These are the fard fasts. Now, you have the nadhr fasts, which are the vowed fasts. So someone makes a vow, an oath to fast, right? There's a difference of opinion on this type of fast. Some say that it is an obligation. Some say it is a wajib fast. So there is a difference of opinion. But Imam Balali, rahimahullah, he says, fil adhar, that the apparent view is that it is a fard fast. Okay. Then you have the second category, which is the necessary fast. These are the wajib. So these are the expiation fast, the kafara fast, and any broken voluntary fast. So somebody is fasting and they break their fast. It's a voluntary fast and they break it. Now it becomes wajib upon that individual to make that fast up. If somebody was fasting and they're invited to what you call a dawah, to go to somebody's house to eat food or something, they're invited for food, then it is permissible for them to break it, provided it is before midday. Okay, so they are allowed to break it. But then they must make that fast up. If somebody does it after midday, then they become sinful. Okay, but they still have to make it up. Then you have the sunnah fast, the masnoon. So these are the likes of the days of Muharram, right? The 10th of Muharram, which includes the 9th or the 11th after it. So you don't fast just the day of Ashura, you fast one day before or one day after. If you fast only the 10th, it is valid, it is permissible, but it is makruh tanzih, it is somewhat disliked. So you should at least fast the 9th with the 10th or the 11th with the 10th. This is to differentiate us from the Jews, because the Jews used to only fast the 10th, okay, because that was the day that they were freed from the clutches of Fir'aun. Okay. Ibn Abidin, rahimahullah ta'ala, he says it is mandub and it is not sunnah. That this type of fast is recommended, it is not sunnah. Other recommended fast that we have, masnoon fast that we have is, you have the Monday fast. That's a sunnah fast. Okay. Recommended fast, the mandub, you have the 3 days of every month. The Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he ordered the companions to fast the 3 white days. The Ayyamul Abid, the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th of every month. And the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the narration which can be found in the collection of Imam Abu Dawood, that whoever keeps these fasts, the 13th, 14th, and 15th, they will be rewarded, the meaning of, like perpetual fasting, like continuous fasting. Mondays and Thursdays too, it's recommended to keep these fasts. The works of the servants are presented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on Monday and Thursday. On Monday and Thursday. And the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the hadith which can be found in the collection of Imam Tirmidhi, that the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I like my works presented, i.e. to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whilst I am fasting. Right? So the final deed that you are doing is that of good actions. Okay. This is the one of the reasons. Another reason for fasting on Mondays is the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that this is the day revelation came to me, and this is the day that I was born. So it is the day of my Mawlid. So this is how the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to commemorate his Mawlid, by keeping a fast. So what we take from that is, when your day of birth comes, your birthday, it's not a party day, right? Spend it in ibadah. Keep a fast, do shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes.
With that point, would you do your birthday according to the solar year?
It's better to do it according to the lunar calendar, but the problem with that is many of us don't know the Islamic days, and we definitely don't know when we were born. So that's why people adopt the the solar calendar upon that. Allahu Akbar. Then you have the 6th fast of Shawwal. It's recommended to fast the 6th fast of Shawwal. Now you can fast these all in one go, or you can break them up around the month. Okay, but it's better after the day of Eid to start fasting the 6 in one go. Because why? Because now you're in the flow of fasting already, so it will be better for you. It will be easier for you. The Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the person who fasts the month of Ramadan and the 6th of Shawwal, It is as if he has fasted perpetually, so he gets rewarded for continuous fasting. Because why? You have the 36 fasts, or even if it's 29, you still get rewarded for the month. Okay, so 36 times 10, because each good deed that you do is multiplied by 10, 360 days fasting, and the lunar calendar is 360 days. So you will receive the rewards for this. Now, another recommended fast, and this is classed as Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, this type of fasting is the best type of fasting. In the hadith of Imam Muslim, that the fast of Sayyidina Dawood alayhi salam is the best type of fasting. And he used to fast every other day. So he would fast one day, miss the next day, fast another day, miss the next day, and he would fast like so. So if somebody did this, and by doing this, they missed the Monday and the Thursday fast because of the alternation, right? It would be better for them to keep this type of fasting as opposed to the Monday and Thursday. Why? Because the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that this is the best type of fasting. Now, voluntary fast. This category of fast is any other day. Any other day which is not disliked, this will be a voluntary fast. Then you have the category of prohibitively disliked fast. The prohibitively disliked fast, and when we're talking here it's makruh tahrim. No. These fasts are the 2 days of Eid. It is impermissible for you to fast on the 2 days of Eid. Now, some even went as far as categorizing this as being haram for you to fast on the 2 days of Eid, i.e. Eid al-Adha and Eid al-Fitr. You should not be fasting on these 2 days. If somebody is fasting on these 2 days, he should be informed, and that person should break that fast immediately. Okay?
People fast on a Friday?
Yeah. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. And it is impermissible for you to fast on the days of Tashriq. So the 11th, 12th, and 13th of Dhul Hijjah. Okay, so it's Eid day, and then the 11th, 12th, and 13th of the following 3 days after Eid, you should not be fasting on these days either. It's prohibitively disliked. And there's no makeup of these fasts either. You don't make up these fasts because they were batil in the first place. You should not have been doing them in the first place. In the hadith, which can be found in the collection of Imam Ahmad, Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, he performs the Eid prayer and then he gives the khutbah. And he says, it is forbidden to fast on these 2 days. The first, we break the fast and you celebrate your festival. And on the second, you eat from the meat of your sacrifice. So you should not be fasting on these days. Another prohibitively disliked fast, and some of you may be surprised about this, is fasting your entire life. Every single day. You should not be doing this. It's prohibitively disliked. Right? Even though it's a very high act of worship, but doing it every single day, you shouldn't be doing it. It's prohibitively disliked. Why? Because now you will become used to it, and it will break your resolve, and it will harden your heart. So the whole purpose of fasting will be lost. Okay. Now, to your question now, Fridays. There's a minority opinion that is disliked. Minority opinion is disliked, but the majority say it is better for you to fast on a Friday because it's a virtuous day. So if you want to fast on Friday, you can fast on Friday. It's impermissible for you to fast on the day of Nowruz, which is the first day of spring, and it's the Persian New Year. Okay, so you shouldn't fast on this day. It's prohibitively disliked. However, this day and age, no one knows when that is. The first day of spring. They don't know what Nowruz is. They don't know what Persian New Year is. So if somebody did fast, right, and they did not know why they were doing it, then it's completely fine. Okay. Same with the Mahrajan. The day of Mahrajan, this is the equinox. And this is the day when night and day are equal of length. Again, this is the days that the disbelievers, the pagans, used to keep a fast to honor their pagan traditions. So somebody, again, many people don't know where equinox is, and they have no idea what a Mahrajan is, right? So if this person is keeping a fast on this day, then there's no harm in it, because again, they don't know about the things that are coming before it and the things that are attached to it. Fasting continuous days without iftar. You should not be doing this. Prohibitively disliked. Saturday, it's all good to fast if you are not emulating the kuffar. If your casual day of fasting falls upon any of these days, then there's no issue if it's just coincidental. For example, somebody is fasting one day and he's missing the next day, fasting, then missing the next day, and it happens to, and he knows that it's the day of Nayruuz, and he knows it's the day of Mahrajan, right? And he knows it's the day of Saturday. Why? Because the Jews used to fast on a Saturday because of the Sabbath. Okay, so if, for example, these fast one day, miss a day, fast one day, miss a day, if it happens to fall on any of these days by coincidence, then there's no harm. Okay, you just can't specify a fast on these particular days for those reasons.
Would that include like for fitness reasons as well? Because I would sometimes fast on Saturday, so I can help with my weight loss.
Maybe change it to a different day.
Just one day, right?
Yeah, just maybe change it to a different day. Right. Because if you're doing it without emulating the, because obviously you're not emulating the Jews, right? Because until I just mentioned it, you probably didn't even know about the Sabbath, right? So there's no really harm in it. Okay, but it's better to just change it maybe to like a Sunday, right, or a Friday. Okay. Your intention. The next section is we're moving on to is intention. All fasts require an intention. So you must have an intention to fast for you to receive the reward. So the following fasts I'm going to mention now, they require an intention that you are fasting, and you must specify the type of fast. And this specification and this intention needs to be made after Maghrib comes in and before the time of Fajr comes in. So it has to be in that time. So the first is your qada. So if you're making up a fast from a previous Ramadan that you've missed, this falls into this category. An invalidated nafil fast. So you had a voluntary fast, which you broke. So you're doing qada of it now. That falls into this category as well. Kafara fast, expiation fast. They must fall within this category as well. Unspecified vowed fasts. They fall into this category as well. So for example, somebody says, oh Allah, if somebody's sick, they say, oh Allah, if I recover, I will fast a day. Right? Now you must specify which day you're going to fast, and you go the day that you choose to honor that specific day because of the oath that you made, the vow that you made. Okay. The following fast that I'm going to mention now, they don't require any specification of the type. And this intention can be made from Maghrib till Dawha al-Kubra. So the short period before noon, i.e. when the sun is at the highest point. And the proof we take this from is the hadith, which can be found in the collection of Imam Tirmidhi. Say that Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, she says that the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam came to me one day and he asked, do you have anything to eat? She said no. The Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam replied, then I am fasting. The best of creation, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and he's asking, is there anything to eat? And when the answer is no, instead of like just making a dua to Allah and food just being sent down, well, you know, like in floods, the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam says, alhamdulillah, I'm fasting. That's what we should take from the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam. The second is Ramadan fast. You don't need to specify the type of fast, because whatever fast intention you make is going to be the fast of Ramadan. Specified days which are vowed for you to fast. So somebody says on Monday, I'm going to fast on a Thursday. So somebody on Monday vows, oh Allah, I'm going to fast on Thursday. Now when Thursday comes, the individual would need to specify, he doesn't need to specify because he's already specified it. Okay. Then you have the voluntary fast. With voluntary fast, all you need to say is nawaitu sawm, I'm fasting. Now, if a resident intends another fast, so intends any other type of fast, then the Ramadan fast would be accepted, because you cannot fast another type of fast in the month of Ramadan. Right? And this is based upon the principle which is wajib and mudayyiq. So if niyyah of the other fast that he's made the intention of is a wajib, then the Ramadan fast is valid and the wajib fast remains outstanding. Okay? So it's the month of Ramadan and he has a wajib fast that he needs to make up. And he says, for some bizarre reason, I'm not going to fast the month of Ramadan now. I'm not going to fast this day in Ramadan. This fast I'm keeping is to make up for a previous fast that I had missed. You know, another fast that I had broke. Now I'm making that one up in the Ramadan. That intention will not go through, and the Ramadan fast is the one that will be valid for him. And that intention that he made for the wajib, the one that he had broken and he needed to make up, at a different point he will need to make that up. Okay. The traveler intending other wajib fast. Now for him, the wajib is fulfilled and the Ramadan will become a qada upon him after the day passes, according to the Imam. The Sahibain said, no, it is the Ramadan fast that will be fulfilled. Okay. The sick person who intends a wajib. The Sahibain, the students of Imam Abu Hanifa rahimullah, they say Ramadan is accepted because that fard is fast. That fast is fard upon him. However, Imam Abu Hanifa rahimullah, he said that it is the intention that he makes, for example, that if he wants to do a qada, then that fast is valid. Right? Because on these two people, the traveler and the one that is sick, there's no obligation upon them. So Imam Abu Hanifa rahimullah is working upon that principle. But the Sahibain is saying no. The Ramadan, that takes priority, so that is the one which is valid and everything else is invalid. Shamsa Imam Sarakhsi rahimullah, he said that the Ramadan fast is valid. However, the author of Hidayah, Imam Marginani, he said whatever is intended, that is accepted. So there is a difference of opinion on this matter. Someone vows to fast a specific day and he makes an intention for another wajib. The wajib is fulfilled and the debt of the original is due. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. Now we move to moon sighting. Yes.
What was it? They have to make the intention between Maghrib and Zawal time.
Yes. Yeah. So the duha, it's called duha al-kubra. Now we move to the issue of moon sighting. Yes.
Once you go from the start, can you make the intention for the next day straight away?
Yes. So the question is, can you make your intention once you've done your iftar for the following day? Yes, because once you've done your iftar, the next day has begun. Okay, because remember, because as soon as Maghrib hits, that's the new day. Okay, so if you make your intention from that point onwards, once Maghrib's hit, that suffices for the day. Okay, so that's why you have from the time of Maghrib all the way to Fajr or all the way to Duha al-Kubra, dependent upon the type of fast that it is. Now, the moon sighting, the issue of moon sighting is one which we all love, and the one, you know, where you have moon wars every year. Now, with first and foremost, you must understand there is no principle which says you have to follow a specific country. Okay? There is no principle that says this. There's nothing that says you have to follow South Africa. There's no principle you have to follow Morocco. There's definitely no principle that you have to follow Pakistan. And there's a 100% no evidence and proof that you have to follow Saudi Arabia. Unfortunately, our people in this day and age now, they think it is an obligation to follow Saudi Arabia. Because they've announced it, now everybody must follow it. This has never been a principle and it never will be a principle, inshallah ta'ala. Now, to sight the moon is fard kifaya. It is a communal obligation. So if one person does it, it suffices for the entire community. If nobody from the community goes out to sight the moon, then there is sin upon the entire community. Okay, so this is why a group of us every Ramadan, etc., we always go out to establish has the moon be sighted or not. Okay, and it's not just for Ramadan; it should be done for every month. Ramadan is established with the moon being sighted. So if the moon is sighted on the 29th night of Sha'ban, on the 29th night of Sha'ban, then the following day, it will be the first day of Ramadan. If it is not sighted, then that night actually becomes the 30th night, and the following day, it becomes the 30th day of Sha'ban. Okay, so there's messages going around now saying it might be Taraweeh tonight. It can't be Taraweeh tonight because tonight we're on the 28th day today. Today's the 28th. After Maghrib, it will be the 29th. After Maghrib will be the 29th. So you can't have the fast. A month cannot be 28 days. It has to be 29 or 30. So if the moon sighted, the days of the month will be 29. If the moon is not sighted, the days of the month will be 30. Okay, so you can't have a 28-day month and you cannot have a 31-day month. It will either be 29 or 30. So you only do you go out to look for the moon only on the 29th of every month. So it doesn't have to be done on the 30th, because somebody asked me this question once, that why do you not go outside the moon on the 30th of the month? Because on the 30th, there's no point to do it, because there cannot be an extra day after the 30th. So the following day, it has to be the day of the following month. Does that make sense? Now, you cannot fast the day of doubt, to the 29th of Sha'ban. Now, this does not mean you can't fast at all on the 29th of Sha'ban. You need to get this straight. The day after the 29th of Sha'ban, so it's 29th of Sha'ban. Now, the day after is overcast, cloudy, there's an obstruction in the sky, and there's doubt as to whether it's Ramadan or not. Only then is makruh to fast. And it's also makruh if there's no firm intention of nafil. So you cannot fast that day if you think to yourself, there's an obstruction in the sky, we can't see the moon or anything, so we're not sure if it's Ramadan or not, but the person fasts and says that I'm going to fast in case it is Ramadan. Right? So now it's makruh. If somebody has a firm intention of this being a nafil fast, then it is permissible to keep that fast without any harm within it. If there is an obstruction in the sky, an obstruction, what we're talking about here is, we're talking about like cloudy day. If it's cloudy and you cannot see anything, then if one upright person says that the moon has been sighted, they have seen the moon, then their statement will be sufficient. And you will act upon it. However, for Shawwal, which is the month which directly comes after the month of Ramadan, to establish, because the Eid al-Fitr is on the 1st of Shawwal. So for this and other months, it will require 2 free males. So 2 males would need to make this observation, or 1 male and 2 females. If there is no obstruction, if there's no obstruction in the sky, then it is required for a large body to make the observation. A large body of people need to make the observation and say that the moon was sighted. Now, it is up to the leader to establish what a large body is. Qadi Abu Yusuf, rahimullah, he said this number is 50 people must say that they've witnessed it. Okay. You're confused? Question?
What the ratio from the girls that form man?
That's an order from the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Let's not open that kind of worms. Yes.
The group of 50.
Yes.
Do they say anything about being bright or anything like that?
No, it doesn't mention anything about that. It's just a large group body of people. So 50. That's why it's required for it to be 50. Okay, because now there's no obstruction in the sky. If there's no obstruction in the sky, then this large body should have seen it. Okay, so remember, it doesn't have to be 50. It depends upon the imam, the leader of the qadi of that area. And this is the same ruling for other months too. Okay? If a person sees the moon for Ramadan alone, nobody else sees it, and it's rejected by the Qadi rejects his opinion, then he is to apply, he is to fast alone. He is to fast alone. However, in the same scenario, it is the day of Fitr, the Eid al-Fitr, the first of Shawwal, and he's the only one that has seen it, and his opinion has been rejected by the judge. Now he cannot break his fast and he cannot do Eid. He must follow the view of the Qadi. Now, when it comes to the moon and sighting it, the position and the strongest position in the Hanafi school, as according to Imam Ibn Abidin rahimahullah, as he notes in his other Mukhtar, that is of global sighting. That the hadith is fast when you see it and break it when you see it. That this hadith is inclusive of all. This is it's a general statement. So whoever sees it and you receive this news, then you should act upon it. Now here, we'll just go into a couple of side points. The reason why majority of the UK scholars, they follow local sighting, and if there's not any local sightings, then they will discuss with Morocco, or they will discuss with South Africa, is because they have ulama, scholars who are there, who can inform them whether it has actually been seen or not. Okay. The reason why they don't follow the views of Saudi Arabia is because Saudi Arabia follow the al-Qura timetable, and the al-Qura calendar has been set out some 60 plus years in advance. Okay, and then if you do ever ask them about who has sighted this moon, the answer normally is some Bedouin Arab in the desert. And then when you look at the site maps, the forecast maps, where if you're going to be able to see it or not, it's always the case that it's impossible for them to see it, yet they claim to be able to see it. So this is why it always causes an issue. So then they're not really followed. It's got nothing to do with anything else. So we should be careful on this point. Now we move to the next section, which is the invalidators. Yes.
Just to clarify, it's makruh to fast for Ramadan if you're doubtful whether Ramadan is going or not.
Yeah. So if you're not firm in your actual intention, you have to be firm in your intention. Okay. Now we move to the invalidators, the mufsidat, those which require qada and require kafara. Now, somebody who eats or drinks something of nutritional value, which is customarily eaten purposely, and this includes the saliva of a wife or a friend, something which is nutritional soil, an unnutritional object which one is in the habit of eating, rainwater on the lips and then just to swallow it, when on the lips, or any salt, etc., they swallow that. All of this invalidates the fast. And all of these will require qada, and it will require a kafara as well. Now Imam Shurun Balali rahimahullah ta'ala, he goes into a very long list of examples, but inshallah, I think that just broad header should be able to be enough for you to deduce what breaks the fast or not. So for example, eating jerked or cured meat, this will break the fast and it necessitates the penalty. Eating raw meat, even if it is damaged, it requires expiation and a make-up day. Though if the meat is worm infested, it does not necessitate expiation. Eating the fat or the grease of meat nullifies the fast and requires expiation and qada. If a person intentionally eats after backbiting, or eats after being subjected to cupping, or after touching his wife, or after kissing with desire, or after sleeping near his wife without any fluid being emitted, or after applying oil on his mustache because he believes that such acts, such as backbiting and cupping, have terminated his fast, then he is liable for expiation and to make up the day. The exception here is, however, if he is given a legal ruling by a scholar. So now if a scholar says to him, because the scholar is acting upon the hadith, that cupping invalidates your fast. Now here, because the Prophet ﷺ in the hadith, for example, he says that the one who backbites has broken his fast. So now somebody has backbitten and he goes to a scholar and the scholar says that your fast is invalid. Now, because he's acting upon the scholar's advice, he will only do a qada. He will not pay the kafara. There's no penalty upon him for that. However, if he knew the meaning of the hadith already, then kafara is due upon him. Intimate relations with another living human in either of the two passages purposely will require a qada, a makeup, and a kafara. A coerced woman who is coerced into marital relations with her husband, there's no kafara upon her, but she must do the qada. However, if she complied willingly, so there was no coercion, now she must do the kafara as well. And what is the expiation? The expiation is to free a slave, or fast 2 consecutive months, or feed 60 poor people 2 meals a day, or 60 poor people, you give them half a sa'a, which is 1.625 kg of wheat or flour, or 3.250 kg, which is 1 sa'a of dates or barley, or its value to each person. Okay, so this is the kafara. But this is only applicable for the fast of Ramadan. So if you break any other fast, then there's no kafara for it. There's no expiation for it. On this point, obviously there's no freeing of slaves now, so you can't do that. If you can fast 2 consecutive months, then this is the one that you should opt for. Fast 2 consecutive months. However, there cannot be any break in between. So somebody who starts to fast and then the day of Eid comes and he's not allowed to fast. Now, because even if he's fasted 59 days, and now the day of Eid al-Adha has come. The day of Eid al-Adha has come and he cannot fast that day. Even though he's fasted all those 59 days. And on the 60th day is Eid al-Adha. Now he cannot complete his expiation. So now he has to restart after the days of Tashriq. Okay. And your 60 days, it cannot include the months of Ramadan. So it has to be either before or after. Yes. Can you include the 6 fasts of Shawwal? No, you can't, because there's no. Now, some scholars say that you can combine intentions, but Sheikh Harun is adamant upon this, and he says that there's no principle within the school to allow a combination of niyas. Okay, there's no to combine two acts of worship. That you can't do this. So if a sister wants to make up her fast of Ramadan, which will qada upon her due to her monthly cycle, she would not be able to combine the intention. She would have to either fast the month of Ramadan, the fast that she's missed in the month of Shawwal, and then make up 6 in the month of Shawwal as well. Okay, so you can't combine the intentions of acts of worship. Right? So Sheikh Harun is adamant upon this, but there are some people from the subcontinent who say you are allowed to do it. So if you do hear about somebody doing it, leave them be. Don't argue with them. The other thing about the consecutive months is that sisters who enter their monthly cycle, or now for them, this break is not included within that. That doesn't break it, because obviously for them, then it would be impossible. So they would fast whatever they can. Then whatever the break is for the menstrual cycle, they would have that little break. And then straight away, once they become pure, they will start fasting again. Okay, so even within that, that's a mercy for sisters. You know, brothers, you have to do 60 in one go. They get a little break in between. So, that's a mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then if you are unable to fast 2 months in one go, right? Because most people, if you fail to do 1 month, right? And you had to break it, it's going to be quite difficult to do 2 months. So be careful with this. And then if you aren't able to do this, then what you would do is you would give the monetary value. And it's better to give the monetary value because the poor, they know exactly what they need and what would be befitting for them. And it works out to approximately £420 per fast. £420 per fast that you've violated. Yes, £420 per fast that you violated. But so somebody has violated 30 fasts in their life. Now, there's one view. This is lucky for you, this person, whoever it is, right? Lucky for them, this isn't the majority view. This person would have to pay £420 times 30. Sorry? Allahu Akbar. But right, this is what they would have to pay. However, the sounder view, the majority view is that one expiation suffices for a month. So you just pay one-time expiation, £420. That I'm giving you the current time. We're in 2021, right? So this is the current one, and I'm working upon the amount which has been set by Muslim hands, okay? Because that's a more cautious one. They always encourage you to give a little extra. So £420. That £420 will cover all of those 30 fasts that you've violated. However, if after that point you go and you violate more fasts, then you will have to do the kafara for all of them again. Okay. Is that clear? Yeah. Just don't do it. All right. Just don't do it. A person will be excused if they made the intention after Fajr, or if somebody was sick, or if they started to bleed before Maghrib of that day, then there is sin, but there's no expiation. Okay, so somebody does, let's say a sister, she does any of these actions which invalidate the fast and requires kafara, but before Maghrib of that day, her menstrual cycle starts. Now there is no kafara upon her, right? But she's still sinful for breaking that day because she didn't know. Or if somebody became sick, the same rule applies to them. If somebody does any of these acts forgetfully, then there is no expiation and it does not invalidate the fast either. Because in the hadith of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which can be found in the collection of Imam Bukhari, that Allah fed and gave them something to drink. Okay, so it is from Allah. So if you see somebody eating and drinking and they had a fast and they've completely forgot that they were fasting, then it's makruh to not remind them that they're fasting. However, if somebody is weak, they're just generally weak, and they look like they've had enough, right? And it has to be real weakness, not just like, on me, I got a headache. And it's one of those where your mum's going to say, have 2 paracetamols and go and put your feet up, right? And you'll be better. We're talking about real weakness. Like they forgetfully start to eat and drink. For them, it is better for you not to remind them. Because why? Because Allah is the one that has given them that food and that drink. Now, the next category is those fasts which only require a qada. Those fasts which only require a qada. Using a suppository in either passage, and this extends to tampons as well. Okay, these, by inserting these, it invalidates the fast, but there's no expiation payment upon them. Someone who was fasting needs to take medicine and invalidate the fast, e.g. through the use of an inhaler. Only a qada is required from them. There is no kafara required from them. A resident who becomes a traveler and breaks his fast is only required to do qada without kafara. Somebody has something which is not normally eaten, or has it for a medical purpose, like dirt reaching the body cavity, this only requires qada. Accidentally swallowing water through wudu or ghusl, and you need to be really careful with this, because don't take the water to the back of your throat and don't take the water to the top of your nose. So with ghusl, if you're fasting, then it is that you only wet your mouth and wet your nose. And what you can do is preventing it from going to the back of your nose and the back of your throat. When you put the water in, don't tilt your head back. Keep your head forward and only use a small amount of water. This will prevent it from going back. Being coerced to break a fast only requires qada. It does not require expiation. Emitting intimate fluid without marital relations through either of the two passages. Okay, so actual sexual intercourse will require expiation, will require kafara and qada. However, if ejaculation occurs without actual marital relations, so through any other means of sexual activity, this does not require kafara, but it does require qada. So you still have to make up the fast. Somebody, for example, Zain is sleeping and Hamza just gets a little mischievous with with Faz, and they think, look, he's sleeping and his mouth is open. So they go get a can of Coke, right? They open it up. Zain's sleeping now. They go and start pouring it down his throat. His fast is invalidated. Okay? But only a qada is due. There is no kafara due. But please don't do this, right? Because you will be sinful. Self-induced vomiting. Now, look, natural vomiting does not invalidate your fast. This is contrary to popular view. Okay, so if you vomit, this does not invalidate your fast. Self-induced vomiting does invalidate your fast. So you force yourself to be sick. This will invalidate your fast. However, Qadi Abu Yusuf rahimahullah, he said even with self-induced vomiting, it will only invalidate your fast if it is a mouthful. Only if it is a mouthful. And what is a mouthful? A mouthful is uncontrollable vomit. So somebody who's vomiting, try to keep it in and they can't because it's so much. Or it's natural vomit, but the person purposely swallows it. Yeah? So don't swallow vomit, please. Yes. Okay. Intentionally inserting water, oils, or eardrops into the ear, it invalidates the fast and it requires qada. Now, this is the classical view, but modern day, the fatwas that are coming out now is that it does not invalidate your fast. So they say because the eardrum is there as a protection and it does not allow for the liquid to travel down the ear canals, etc. So they say it will only invalidate if there is a perforated eardrum. So if the eardrum has been pierced, then it will only invalidate the fast. But the sound of view is that it does invalidate your fast. And remember, this is only referring to if it's actually inserted and poured into it. So if, for example, you're having a shower and water goes into your ear, that doesn't invalidate your fast. We're talking about actually pouring into it. Okay? If you're swimming, then this doesn't, and the water goes into your ear, this does not invalidate your fast. But however, with swimming, the issue is water will go up your nose and it will go in your mouth. That's inevitable. Okay? Unless you're going to wear like some kind of like snorkels or something, right? Then that will not invalidate your fast. Okay. And what else does not invalidate your fast is we'll come back to that one. If you're bleeding from your mouth and such that the saliva becomes red, okay, so the saliva now becomes red. This means now the bleeding is more predominant than your saliva. Now, if you swallow this will break your fast and it will require qada, but there's no kafara upon it. Somebody unintentionally ingests snow, rainwater, sweat, or tears, this will invalidate the fast. Okay, but if it's done with intention, then it requires a kafara. Ingesting leftover food in the mouth, if it is the size of a chickpea or more, this will invalidate the fast and require qada. But if it is less, then it will not. Intentionally inhaling or ingesting smoke, so i.e. from cigarettes, barbecue smoke, cooking steam, burning oud, inhalers, all of these kind of things, these will invalidate the fast and it will require a qada, but there's no kafara due. If unintentional, so it's done unintentionally. So for example, you're sitting in a room with the Imam Khalid, for example, and he starts to burn bukhur in the room, which he likes to do. And then now the bukhur, the smoke, it gets full in the room. Or you're at a barbecue and, somebody is busy there making the food and the smoke, etc., is getting mixed into the air. This will not invalidate the fast. Or if you've got, say, deodorant, if you've got these FM fragrances, right? You spray them, right? And they go directly into your mouth. So you spray it and it goes directly into could you spray it and you think these smell really nice, right? So you spray it and then it goes directly into your mouth, or if it goes directly up your nose, right? What will happen here is this will invalidate your fast. However, if you spray it away from your mouth and it's such that it goes all over your clothes, etc., but you don't inhale it and it does not go down your throat, so now it's just been mixed into the air. Once it's been mixed into the air, there's no issue. Okay? So I hope that's clear, inshallah. If you apply medicine to a wound which reaches the stomach or brain, so inhalers, as I mentioned before, this will invalidate the fast, but there is no kafara, there is only qada for this. Okay? Now, taking insulin injections which go into the stomach. Now remember, when it says going into the stomach, we're talking about an open wound going into the stomach. The injections, etc., that people take, like the diabetic ones, they take it in their stomach, but it's not going directly into the stomach. It's going into the subcutaneous fat. It's going into the fat which surrounds the stomach. So that's not the actual stomach. We're talking about an actual wound that it goes into. Same with the brain. We're talking about an actual wound, or we're talking about it reaching the brain from the nasal passage. So all of this, it will break the fast. But insulin, when you take it in your stomach or your leg, etc., this will not invalidate the fast. However, with insulin, the issue is that many people, they need to eat after this. You need to eat because of I don't know how it works, but this is what I've been told by actual diabetics, that you need to eat once you take the insulin. So the eating is what is problematic. If somebody didn't need to take the insulin, the eating after the insulin, then it will not be an issue for them. And the people who take or who are diabetic and they're only on the tablet form, the metformin, for them, it's easier for them to fast. And for this type of diabetes, I believe it was Sheikh Samir Anas, because he's a doctor. He said, did I mention the other way? Okay, so he said that it's better. He said that it's better for these people to fast, because in their terms of treatment for their diabetes, this one, not the insulin, we're talking about the tablet form. For them, it is better for them to fast, right? And these people can fast. My father's like in his 70s now, and he's on the metformin type, right? Diabetes, and he fasts every year, alhamdulillah. So it is easy for these people. Yes.
Taking a tablet whilst fasting will invalidate the fast.
No. Taking a tablet will invalidate your fast. But what I'm saying is that the tablet, you can go the whole day without taking it, and you can take it at Maghrib time. However, if somebody does actually become reliant upon it, and somebody does need to take it, so you've got Galabat al-Dhan. So based upon actual experience or knowledge, and the person knows from themselves that if we don't take this, right, then we're going to become really sick. We're going to get worse. Then this person shouldn't be fasting. Okay? Or a sound Muslim doctor says to them that you shouldn't be fasting. It's better for you not to fast. Then this person, he shouldn't fast. Okay? And sometimes the question, and Sheikh Harun was asked this question about a week ago when he was doing this Ramadan intensive, that where do we find sound Muslim doctors from? And he was surprised at the question. And he said, look, just by thinking of it, he said, I can give you like dozens of names of righteous doctors. And he says, there's a problem here, with what kind of circles are you like rolling in? That you think that there's no, sound Muslim doctors that you can trust. So, if you have this situation and you generally can't find a sound Muslim doctor to give you advice, get in touch, inshallah, we'll put you through to them. Yes.
Can the doctor still be sound if they don't have following knowledge?
Okay, so can a doctor be sound even if they don't have fardul ain knowledge? Yes, they can, because what we're talking about here is not about knowledge. What we're talking about here is knowledge of the field, and we're talking about them being righteous. So they're not somebody who will openly sin. Okay, so they know the importance of Ramadan. So somebody who's an open sinner who doesn't fast themselves and is a doctor, obviously you wouldn't go to them because they don't fast themselves. So they don't see the importance of Ramadan themselves. So how are they going to show you the importance of it? Okay. On this point as well, giving blood tests, taking blood tests, giving blood, it does not invalidate the fast, providing it does not make you weak. If it makes you weak, then it becomes makruh. The COVID jabs or any other jab, flu jabs, these will not invalidate your fast either. Okay, because it's just going into your arms, etc. So that's why it is not. There's no harm within there. Somebody who's addicted to smoking, nicotine patches, it will not invalidate your fast. Why? Because it's getting put on the arm, etc. I think that covers that. With the vaccines, we're talking about the flu vaccine, for example. One of them is the nasal injection is in the nasal vaccine. You wouldn't be able to take this. If you took the nasal vaccine, this will invalidate your fast because now it's going through one of the body cavities, which invalidates the fast. And plus, it has gelatin in it. It has pork gelatin in it. So based upon that, you wouldn't even be able to take it outside of Ramadan. With the flu vaccine, they do have an alternative which does not have any pork in it, right? And that's an injectable form. You would be allowed to take that. Somebody who continues eating into Fajr time. Somebody who continues eating into Fajr time, but had doubt about its entering. So so he doesn't know. He thinks that it's still not Fajr time. Fajr hasn't entered. And he carries on eating into past Fajr time now. Now for this person, it's only qada. There's no expiation. There's no kafara that he has to pay. This is why I said it's important. It's important to stop eating 10 minutes before. Yes.
Wouldn't that come on the lines of someone forgetting? Like, you said if someone's fasting and they forget.
No. Okay, so the distance that we need to make here is that one thing is forgetting. The other thing is making a mistake. Forgetfulness is, for example, somebody starts eating into Fajr time and they forgot they were fasting, right? Now, for that person, his fast is still intact. Now, the person who didn't realize what the time is and he carried on eating into it, now he's made a mistake about the time. But he knew that he needed to fast or he was going to fast. So there's a distinction that we need to make. Mistake is not excuse. That will invalidate your fast. That requires qada. Forgetfulness does not invalidate your fast at all. Okay, so always make a distinction with that. Yes.
Mom, in the morning when you're sitting there and you're watching your TV and you go on to look at 2 seconds, the TV, 20 minutes has gone by, when done once. What I'm saying is, if you're there, close to the past, you're watching the TV, but you're going way into it because you're watching what's on the news, isn't it? It goes in 20 minutes.
Yes, that's what we're talking about. So the brother's saying that it's Sahri time, right? And you're sitting there and he's talking about eating his paranti and stuff, and the TV's on and he's just glued into the TV now, and next minute you look up and the time's gone and you're still eating. The time's gone and you're still eating. Now you must abstain from food for the rest of the day, but that fast doesn't count. You must abstain from the fast for the rest of the day, but the fast doesn't count you must do qada of it, but there's no kafara upon you. A woman who starts a menstrual cycle or is on postnatal bleeding, she is not required to refrain from eating and drinking, because there's no obligation upon her. However, if she was already on her menstrual cycle and now she becomes pure, DMX tribute or something. So now she becomes pure. Now for her, she must abstain from food for the remainder of the day. And the woman who is on her menstrual cycle, or the sick person, right, they should not be eaten, or the traveler should not be eaten in front of other people. They should try and eat discreetly, because you should not put yourself in a position where people are, looking at you in a negative way, saying, this person's not fasting. Because unfortunately, people don't like to make some excuses for people anymore. Okay. I was going to make a point, slip my mind. Yes.
The intention thing that your intention is, you can still make it all the way to the Zawar time. But that's only if you haven't eaten, isn't it?
Yes. So that's only if you haven't eaten. Okay. If you've eaten, then for the Hanbalis allow that. Okay. But I think that's just for optional fast. Okay. Dave. So this is just on the side point on there. First and foremost, please stay away from paranti and stuff when it comes to fast. It's going to make your fast difficult. I know it's, it tastes nice and all of that, but the grease and all of that and a heavy meal is going to make the fast difficult for you. If you want a good sahur meal, dates and water. This is the recommendation from the Prophet ﷺ. And make sure you have the sahur meal. It's makruh, it's disliked for you not to wake up for the pre-dawn meal, and try to delay it close to the Fajr time as possible, because there's blessings within it. So make sure you do that. What else is there? The TV. Don't waste your sahur time. Your sahur time, that is a blessed time. Quickly take some kujurs, do some dates, have some water, brush your teeth, pray 2 rakat nawafil. Don't waste it sitting there watching TV. And don't fall into the trap of the Satan that he's left behind for you, where he says to you, no, it's cool. As long as you got Dawat Islami channel on, as long as you got Noor TV on, it's all good. No, it's not. Because even with that, that's keeping you away from your ibadah. If you want to watch those channels during the day, once you've got your fast, you've done your other obligations stuff, there's no harm in it. But if you're glued into the TV watching Netflix, right, then you're wasting your day. Right? Don't waste it. Water or oil which enters into either of the 2 passages, this will invalidate the fast. So when you are doing istinja, you need to be careful. If you use so much water that it goes into the rear orifice, it's going to invalidate your fast. Same with sisters. If it goes into the private area, it invalidates the fast. And you must make a qada of this fast. But again, you must refrain from eating for the rest of the day. Those things now we move to which do not invalidate the fast. Eating, drinking, and marital relations forgetfully do not invalidate the fast. Somebody who forgets that he is in a state of, in any of these states, and now he remembers, but he carries on eating, drinking, or engaging in marital relations, now qada is due upon them. Now the fast is broken. Okay. Emitting intimate fluid without interaction with the self or another, this does not invalidate the fast. So somebody has a wet dream, this does not invalidate the fast. Vomiting, coughing, and discharge do not invalidate the fast. Eye drops or eyeliner or kohol, this does not invalidate the fast, even if there is taste in the back of the throat. And again, now with the modern opinion, they say that there's some tracts which go from the eye to the throat, etc. So this invalidates the fast. But we have proof on the hadith where the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used kohol whilst he was fasting, and kohol leaves taste in the back of your throat. So based upon that, eyeliner, etc., according to the sound of you, is permissible. Eye drops are permissible. Cupping and backbiting is permissible as long as it does not, it's not permissible, but it does not invalidate your fast, right? So do not engage in backbiting. It's not permissible. Okay? So cupping of one is permissible, providing it does not make you weak. If it makes you weak, then it's impermissible. Backbiting is haram, and you will lose the reward of your fast, but you must still fast, and it does not invalidate your fast. Swallowing your own saliva or your mucus, it does not invalidate your fast. So you don't have to keep spitting whilst fasting. Passing out or entering a state of insanity. If one faints or becomes unconscious for part of Ramadan, so for example, goes into a coma or something, or even the entire period of Ramadan, he's liable to make up those days. If somebody becomes insane for part of Ramadan, then for those days he was insane, he becomes liable to do qada. If somebody becomes insane for the entire month, then he's not liable for qada. Now, when to refrain? If you break your fast, you must abstain for the rest of the day. A traveler who becomes resident, comes back home now, he is to refrain from the rest of the day. Okay. Somebody who reaches puberty on the actual day of fasting, or becomes Muslim on the actual day of fasting, then, and it is after the time of Fajr, so they can't keep the fast for the rest of the day, then they must refrain from eating and drinking for the rest of the day and marital relations. Yes.
Still get reward in that case.
Do you still get rewarded in that case? Allahu Alam. Inshallah you will. Because remember, actions are according to intentions. So, things which are not disliked. Cupping, as long as it does not make you weak. Going to the gym, as long as it does not make you weak. Using the siwak. Okay, because there's a hadith which mentions that the person who uses the miswak, then on the day of, when he's about to pass away, the meaning of it, Allah will make it so that he is able to recite the shahada. So try to use the siwak. Rinse in the mouth, rinse in the nose, taking a bath. All of these actions do not invalidate the fast, nor are they makruh. Okay. Makruh acts. Makruh acts, tasting food without reason. Obviously, we're not talking about swallowing the food. We're talking about putting it on your tongue to taste it. So like a sister who's in the kitchen cooking, or a brother who's in the kitchen cooking, these people, if they need to taste the food, it is makruh. But it does not invalidate the fast, providing they spit it out. The exception here is if the person has an oppressive husband or wife, and if they make food which is too salty or does not taste good, or guests are coming around and the food is not going to taste good, and then this oppressive husband or wife are going to begin to abuse them, this is a valid excuse for them to taste it, but again, they must not swallow it. Chewing without reason is disliked. So you should not chew without reason. So chewing gum, as long as it's unflavored, it will not break your fast, but it is a makruh act. So you should not be doing it. Obviously, flavored gum, now you're taking the juices, etc. down, this will invalidate your fast. Yes?
Any benefit to children?
No. Being intimate with your spouse, there's no harm with this. You guys need to get married. Okay? I'm going to speak to your parents. You definitely need to get married. Being intimate with your spouse, if you're sure it's not going to lead to anything which invalidates your fast, then there's no harm in it. If you are sure that it is going to lead to something which invalidates the fast, then it is prohibitively disliked for you to do this. You should refrain from it. Gathering saliva in your mouth and then swallowing it, this is disliked. Any act which weakens you, so going to the gym, playing football, cricket, whatever, all of this is disliked. Only having water for suhoor, this is disliked. Delaying the suhoor meal all the way close to Fajr, such that you can risk going over, this is disliked as well. Rushing to open your fast or delaying to open on a cloudy day, this is disliked as well. Yes.
And I said that activity that makes you weak is disliked.
Yes.
What if, like, that's your job, right? If you're building something.
Okay, good point. Good question there. Good question. Okay, so the question is, what if you are working in a environment which requires you to do heavy lifting and work which will actually make you weak? Then what should you do in that circumstance? Should you do that work or not? Okay, if you are able to get your work relocated to a different time when it's not Ramadan, etc., then in this case, then you should do that. However, the fatwa is given is somebody who has no option but to do this work. So, for example, the people in Pakistan or in Dubai, etc., they're in this like extreme heat, and most of them they're poor and they've got no other option but to be out there working. And if they don't, they've got no bread and butter. Now, for them, they are given the fatwa that they are allowed to not fast, providing they've got no other excuse. In that case, then what they would do is, at a time when they are able to fast, when the days become shorter, etc., and it's not so peak heat out there, then they would make up those fasts. But that's only for them. Okay, so there has to be a extreme circumstance. The recommended actions is to the pre-dawn meal, to observe sahur, for there is blessing in the sahur. To delay the pre-dawn meal to shortly before dawn is recommended. The Prophet ﷺ said, 3 things are from the qualities of the messengers: to break the fast immediately upon sunset, to delay the sahur, and to place the right hand over the left hand in prayer. So here we're talking about eating in the final part of the night. So when we said it's disliked to delay the sahur meal, we're talking about within the 10 minutes of Fajr. But when we're talking about now, it is recommended to delay it. Now we're talking about doing it in the last part of the night, because that is where the blessings are. You should haste in breaking the fast on a day where there is no obstruction or clouds in the sky. It's recommended. However, it is disliked to do so on a cloudy day. Yes.
Well, because we've got timetables, we can just put one timetable.
Yeah, if you've got timetables, just don't do what you do. So don't just put sunset Nottingham into Google and whatever time it says, don't just run to open it according to that. Leave a couple of minutes, because Google isn't always 100% accurate. That might be a shock for some of you, but it's the truth. Right, we now move to the fidya. The fidya is the repudiatory payment for those people who cannot fast. So somebody who is old, a feeble person, or somebody who is ill, and they will never recover or become healthy, they are to give half a sa'a, so 1.625 kg, for each fast. Okay? And if they recover or they become healthy, then they must make that fast up. Yes.
So like 3 or 4 brothers, because the father gives 4 3 pounds.
No. Okay, with the fidya, what you need to understand is, this isn't if you are unable to fast for 1 or 2 days or for a month because you're sick. This is what we're talking about. The fidya here is you're never going to be able to fast again. Okay, so the hindrance needs to remain for your entire life. So if you become sick and you cannot just fast for, let's just say for 10 days, you become sick, like really sick, and you're unable to fast. Now you will not give fidya. When you become well, you will make up those 10 days. Okay, another circumstance. Somebody is really weak and they cannot keep fast in the month of Ramadan. So they miss all 30. Now, miraculously, 20 years down the line, they become well. they recover. Despite them having paid the fidya for all of those years, now they become well, they will do qada of all of those years. And that fidya that they gave will be classed as sadaqah, charity for them. And in the pursuit of making all those fasts up, if they die, actions are according to intentions. Allah is the one who took their life. And what do you see that is? You know, the way I see it is, Allah's made it easy for them so they would not have to go through the burden of making all of those fasts up again. So Allah took their life. Right? It's from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes.
What about fasts? You said the pregnant woman or the woman who is breastfeeding.
Yes.
Do they have to do qada of them?
Yes. So the woman who's breastfeeding or postnatal bleeding, or some woman that's pregnant, those fasts she will make up at a different time. She does not give fidya. Okay, and what is the current fidya? Works out to £7 per fast. So for the entire month, it will work out to £200, £210. There are other places, I've seen Dawat Islami are charging about £3. Allahu alam how that works. £3. I think that's way too low. But you'll need to speak to them how they're making that up. One of my friends asked me about it. He said, "What should I give?" Because of his mother is unable to fast. So I said to him, "Look, give it to Muslim hands because it's £7, right? And that's the more cautious, because what they're doing is they're doing it according to the market value of where you are. Okay, so if it does go over, whatever you give over, alhamdulillah, it will be charity. You'd rather be safe than give less and risk that falling under. Yes.
Can someone give it on behalf of someone else?
Can someone give it on behalf of somebody else? Yes, it can.
And what if someone's poor and can't afford to give it out?
If somebody's poor and they can't afford to give it, then Allah's the one who's put them in that situation. So they don't need to worry about it. Do you have a question? No? The next thing that we move on to is Laylatul Qadr. Now, Laylatul Qadr falls within the last 10 nights. One of the last 10 nights. The hadith of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam specifies to search it in the odd nights. By consensus, the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they are more drawn to the fact that it will be on the 27th night. Now, I think I did a session. I've done it, haven't I? Right? If you check my YouTube channel, there is a whole section on Laylatul Qadr. It's about an hour long, so you can just check that for more details. So the last 10 nights, if you are able to, then make sure you spend those nights in full ibadah. If you can stay in the masjid from Taraweeh all the way to Fajr, then that will be best for you. If you're able to give, to spend those 10 nights in itikaf, that will be even better for you. Okay, so the itikaf, we'll move on to that now. Itikaf for men can only be done in a masjid. So a man cannot do itikaf in his home or elsewhere. And it requires an intention. There are 3 types of itikaf. So you have the mandatory itikaf. It's when you vow to perform a itikaf. So this is wajib. So when you perform this type of itikaf, it has to be in a masjid, and it requires for you to be in a state of fasting as well. Then you have the sunnah kifaya. So it is a communal sunnah obligation for at least one person in each community to fulfill the sunnah, to sit the itikaf in the final 10 nights, because this was the continuous act of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sayyidah Aisha radiyallahu anha, she says, the hadith which can be found in Bukhari and Muslim, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would perform itikaf in the last 10 days of Ramadan when he arrived at Medina until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took his soul. And unfortunately, people now, they're beginning to just leave the itikaf. They're beginning to leave the itikaf. So this is a sunnah which needs to be revived, especially by our youth. So Alhamdulillah, as long as we're here, we'll always have somebody doing the itikaf in our city. So wherever people are watching from, make sure there's always somebody who's sitting that itikaf. It's from the most honorable of actions, provided it is performed with sincerity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you're doing it so people praise you and say, oh, mashallah, look at him, he's doing itikaf, etc., then obviously you're going to be nullifying your reward. The Prophet ﷺ said, the slave of Allah does not cease prayer so long as he is in the masjid waiting for the prayer. So as long as you're in the masjid, then you'll continuously be rewarded for it. And obviously, it's not specified for the sunnah fast to be, the sunnah kifaya itikaf, because obviously it's all 10 days of Ramadan. The recommended itikaf is any other itikaf. So you 1 hour and 45 minutes. Now, nawaitu sunnatul itikaf. Best to leave, etc. There is a view of the Sahibain on this, which kind of differs with Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, but I don't think I want to give that to Sufyan, because then he's going to start and taking advantage of that. So, yeah. Now, Imam Al-Ghinani rahimahullah, he mentions that itikaf is not valid except in a congregational masjid. So it has to be in a masjid where Jamaat takes place. The worshipper is not to come out to the masjid, and kissing are prohibited likewise. Prayer now. When the morning prayer was finished, the Prophet ﷺ, told them, and he said, your presence was not hidden from me. That I was afraid if I was to come out for the fourth night as well, that it would become, the meaning of it, it would become an obligation upon you. And I was fearful of this burden upon my ummah. So this is why the Rasul ﷺ, he does not night. So it is highly recommended to get to the masjid and pray. The Prophet ﷺ prayed 20 rakats. Narrated by Ibn Abbas radiallahu an, that during the month of Ramadan, the Prophet ﷺ performed 20 rakats, and thereafter he performed the witr salah. And Bayhaqi and Musannaf Ibn Abi Shayba, they narrate this hadith, and Hafiz Ibn Hajar, he states this in his hadith in his book Al-Matalibul Aliyah. So it's important for you to perform the 20 rakats. So make sure you perform at least 20 rakats. There's narrations where the companions have performed, and in later years there's been performance of 36 rakats. So 36 rakats have been performed. So 20 rakats is what we should be performing, and there's a consensus in the ummah about this. All four imams say that there should be 20 rakats. Even if you go to the Haramain in Makkah, Medina, even till common day, they perform 20 rakats. So don't be of those people who prayed 8 and then go home. Because this is just nawafil prayer. Even in the terminology of Taraweeh, it does not fall within that. So it just falls into nawafil prayer. If you have qada to do, if you have qada prayers to make up, this is a valid excuse for you to miss your Taraweeh, as long as you are using that entire time to utilize performing your qada salah. However, it's more beneficial for you to perform the qada and perform the Taraweeh, because it's only 30 nights that we have, or 29 nights, that you can come to the masjid, perform the Taraweeh and listen to the Qur'an. So it's the month of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's the month for the believers, it's the month of the Qur'an. So we should try our best to attach ourselves to the Qur'an. So do we have any questions before we close? Any questions? No? So we say, وَصَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَى سَيِّدِنَا مُحَمَّدٍ وَعَلَى آلِهِ وَصَحْبِهِ وَسَلَّمَ تَسْلِيمًا كَثِيرًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to reach the month of Ramadan and allow us to attain the forgiveness of this blessed month. وَمَا عَلَيْنَا إِلَّا الْبَلَاغُ الْمُبِينُ. وَالسَّلَامُ عَلَيْكُمْ وَرَحْمَةُ اللَّهِ وَبَرَكَاتُهُ.